Bruce Willis is back, doing what he does best. Let's talk about this film, Gasoline Alley. Yeah, so I've just sat down and watched Gasoline Alley. Now this film is directed by Edward Drake. Edward Drake, he's a director who's done some titles you may know, you may have seen, but not watched. He must have Bruce Willis on retainer because he's directed films like Breach, Cosmic Sin, Apex and American Siege, among others. Those four I just mentioned all star Bruce Willis, doing what Bruce Willis does best. By what I mean by Bruce Willis does best, I mean by what Bruce Willis does best of late. Yes, now this film stars Bruce Willis as Detective Bill Freeman. He's joined by Luke Wilson, yes, brother of Owen, as Detective Freddy Vegas. And joining proceedings is Devon Sawyer as Jimmy Jane. Now, Devon Sawyer is an actor that I have seen a couple of times recently in 2 or 3 things. He was in the Chucky TV series as the father of one of the primary children. And he was in also... I'm trying to think of it. It's coming to me. It's there. What else was he in? The Bruce Campbell film, the latest Bruce Campbell film, Black Friday. He was in that also in a role. Now, the film itself is 97 minutes in length and focuses around Jimmy Jane, who's a geezer who at the start of the film meets this prostitute and she interacts with him. And then you find out that her, along with some other working girls, have been murdered. Bruce Willis and Luke Wilson's character, Bill Freeman and Freddy Vegas, respectively, are the detectives assigned to this case. And they find a lighter there that belongs to Jimmy Jane. Because Jimmy Jane, he owns a tattoo parlour, and his lighters have his tattoo parlour's name on it. So they go to him, and he's obviously a suspect. And people have said that they saw the girls interacting with him the night prior. So this leads into an investigation run by Luke Wilson with Bruce Willis stood there, in which Jimmy Jane is like the primary suspect or a person of interest within the case, but his father used to be a former detective and this sort of thing, so he takes it under himself to start looking into the case himself, shall we say, from a sort of convict's point of view, because he's an ex-con as well, and he's got this history with this other guy who's in the film business, who's an actor who was put away for a few months, blah, blah, blah. Story goes on, and there's all this stuff about drug dealings and prostitution and, you know, the porno industry and this sort of stuff centred throughout the film until you get to the end, blah, blah, blah. I won't go into the story too much because I'll be honest with you, the film was sending me to sleep. I was dozing off. Now, I don't know why. I used to love Bruce Willis. I did back in the day, you know, the days of Moonlighting and into Die Hard and things like that. Bruce Willis was fantastic, but he doesn't care anymore. He's given up. But I'd love to see him working with a director who could actually pull a performance back out of him, because the guy can act when he wants to. He just doesn't want to anymore. And like I said, Edward Drake is the director of this. I didn't realise it was the same director as all these other films until after I watched it and I looked up what else he'd done. It's like, okay, it makes sense now. Now, Bruce Willis, at the start of this film, he pops up in a couple of scenes. He isn't in it a lot, don't get me wrong. And I'm going to spoil the film, but I don't think that's a really big problem because I don't think many people are going to go and see it. So he's only in a couple of scenes towards the beginning. He does less than Luke Wilson, who again is in a small part of the film, but not massively as much as Devon Sawyer, who's the primary star of the film. So Bruce Willis is there, and in his first scene, he gets to do nothing but say the film's title, Gasoline Alley. Yep. And then in an interrogation scene inside Jimmy Jane's tattoo parlour, he's just there to prop up proceedings and pretty much reiterate everything that Luke Wilson has said. And then there's another scene between him and Luke Wilson, which I swear you not, every single word that Bruce Willis says is yes, yeah, yeah. And that's it. There's no dialogue for him in the film whatsoever. Anyway, as the film progresses, it turns out that Bill Freeman, Bruce Willis' character, is a dirty, corrupt cop, and he's involved with all the stuff that's going on. He's the one who set up Jimmy Jane and all this sort of thing. And at the end, obviously, Bruce Willis' character gets killed in this laughable death scene that is just Bruce Willis not even acting, not even caring. You don't even get the sense that he's in pain after he's been shot, that he's, you know, just dreadful. Now, Luke Wilson, I quite like Luke Wilson. He's not as big as Owen Wilson, obviously, but back in the day, you know, he'd done things like Old School, Super Ex-Girlfriend. More recently, he's been in Stargirl, the TV series. Right, so Luke Wilson's quite good. But at the beginning of this, I don't know whether he didn't know whether he knew he was in a comedy or in a serious film, because a lot of his stuff at the beginning could be taken either way. You know, the way he's acting is just... I've seen better acting from him, let's just say that, Luke Wilson. You know, he's done better than this. It's just very, very poor, and which is unfortunate, really. Like I said, I just don't think he knew what he was in. I'm wondering if they filmed the film chronologically, and thusly some of his earlier scenes in the film are actually the earlier scenes that he did actually film in front of the camera and didn't know what he was doing. But, okay, Devon Sawyer. Now, I've seen Devon Sawyer in a few bits, like I've said, and to be fair to the guy, he does his best in this film. He's not a fantastic actor. He's the type of actor who would be typecast in a specific sort of role, much like he is here, like an ex-con type of thing. But his performances in a couple of other things that I saw in Black Friday and that were pretty good. I mean, I'm not saying he's an excellent actor or anything. What I'm saying is there's potential there to be had. And Devon Sawyer, he does his best with what he's got in this, and I can't blame him for taking this film role because, you know, he's only a small-time actor. So, do you know what I'm saying? But the film story itself, again, the story had potential. The story did have potential, you know, about these girls that were killed, but the way it went about, it wasn't particularly great. It got boring. The film was probably maybe 15 minutes too long because I did find it dragging and me dozing off, shall we say. So I probably did miss some parts of the film in that sense. And also, the soundtrack from the film, when the film first started and opened, it had this sort of blues type of music, I guess, and it felt very 80s in the opening scene, and with where the words are coming up, title sequence, and that, it felt something about it felt rather 80s. But then as you get into the film, the soundtrack goes from this sort of blues to what could only be described as a mix between blues and maybe some jazz music. Yeah, I don't know the best way to describe it. It wasn't a particularly good soundtrack. There are other bits that reminded me it wouldn't be out of place in sort of like a noir type of a movie. Even, you know, to a lesser degree, like Blade Runner. You know, some of the soundtrack in this felt like it could be sort of transitioned into a cheapy Blade Runner kind of a film, you know. So it's very, very odd. I don't know who done the soundtrack. I didn't look. I didn't much care. But anyway, so again, it's Bruce Willis frustrates me. Because I'd love to see him do something. I'd love to get one more Die Hard film where he cares. You know, I need a Die Hard film titled Old Habits, Die Hard. I need that. Bruce Willis' swan song, but I don't know. He needs a I'd love for him to just work with a director. Like I said, he must be on call for this guy because he's doing every film with him. They must be best buds or something. I don't know. Or he's got something on Bruce Willis. You know, a bit of ghosts in the closet kind of thing. Skeletons in the closet. Sorry. I don't know. It's a frustrating film. It's not good film. You know, I've said some positive things about it. But those positives are overshadowed by all the negatives. And like when I said the story had potential, it's not done very well in this film. It has potential that it could have been done a whole lot better. But yeah, anyway, so that was just a quick review of this movie, Gasoline Alley. Avoid it. You'll thank me later. See you later all. Take care and goodbye.